So for today's video, we're going to tackle about the quadratic inequalities. So when we say quadratic inequalities, ito yung ginagamitan natin ng mga inequality symbol. Unlike sa ating quadratic equation na lesson natin last time, ginagamitan natin siya ng equal symbol. So let's proceed. So a quadratic equation can be written as ax squared plus bx plus c greater than 0. Then it becomes a quadratic inequality. So when the equality symbol is replaced by inequality symbol. So these are the inequality symbol that we have. We have the less than, the greater than, less than or equal to, and then greater than and equal to. So like quadratic equation, meron tayong real numbers a, b, and c, and a is not equal to 0. So katulad ng quadratic equation, dapat hindi mawala yung quadratic term natin. Because if wala yung quadratic term natin, then it cannot be, or it is not considered as quadratic equation or quadratic inequality. So first, let's have identify if the equation is a quadratic inequality or not. So let's have this number 1. So the equation is x squared plus 2x minus 3 greater than 0. So this one is considered as quadratic inequality. So quadratic inequality. Bakit siya quadratic inequality? First is we have the inequality symbol, and then second is we have the degree of 2. Again, to consider an equation as quadratic inequality, we have we need to consider 2, which is the inequality symbol, and then the exponent, which is 2. Next natin, number 2. This one is considered as quadratic inequality. Bakit siya quadratic inequality? It is considered as inequality or the quadratic inequality because we have the inequality symbol and the exponent or the degree of 2. Number 3 natin is, so x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. Since we have the equal sign, then it is not quadratic inequality. Next natin, number 4 is 3x cubed is greater than or equal to 3 minus 10x. So this one, we have the quadratic or the inequality symbol, but the highest degree that we have is 3. So therefore, it is not quadratic inequality. So to further understand this one, or to easily identify the quadratic inequality, let's have another examples. So we're going to tell whether the equation is quadratic inequality or not quadratic inequality. So let's have this number 1. X cubed plus 5x minus 2 is greater than 0. This one is not quadratic inequality. So bakit siya not quadratic inequality? If we have naman the symbol of inequality. So because of the degree of 3. So always remember that the quadratic or the exponent of the quadratic equation or inequality is 2. So next natin, number 2, x squared minus 9x plus 8 is greater than 0. So this one is quadratic inequality because we use the inequality symbol and we have the degree of 3. So next naman natin is number 3. So in number 3, we have 4x squared plus 7x is less than 0. So this one is considered as quadratic inequality. Quadratic inequality siya because we have the inequality symbol and also the degree of 2. So if you notice, we have the quadratic term, the linear term in our equation, but we don't have the constant term. So like what we said in quadratic equation, even there's no linear term or the constant term, but we have the quadratic term, that equation is considered as quadratic inequality or equation. So let's move to number 4, x squared plus 8 is equal to 0. So this one is not considered as quadratic inequality. Therefore, it is not quadratic inequality because of the equal sign, or yung symbol natin is equal. But it is considered as quadratic because of the exponent 2. So let's move to number 5. So this one is considered as not quadratic inequality. Bakit po siya not quadratic inequality? Because we don't have the highest degree of 2. So meron lang tayong 1 na exponent, but we have the inequality symbol. Pero wala nga tayong degree of 2 or the exponent of 2, then this is not a quadratic. So since we know how to identify if the equation is quadratic inequality or not quadratic inequality, let's proceed in solving the quadratic inequality. So, first is a solution of a quadratic inequality in one variable is a value of the variable that makes the inequality a true statement. So, there are many methods to solve quadratic inequality. So, kung ano yung ginagawa natin or how are we going to solve the quadratic equation, same lang din in solving the quadratic inequality. So, if you remember in solving the quadratic equation, we find the values of x, which is sometimes the values of x or the roots are 2, the roots are 1, and sometimes the roots are too complex but not real. But here in our quadratic inequalities, it is different from quadratic equation. Kasi sa quadratic inequality natin, yung value ng x natin is not only 2, but sometimes it is more than 2. And sometimes it is infinity. So, paano po yung infinity? Sometimes the value of x is all negative numbers. Sometimes the value of x is 5. Sometimes the value of x is positive numbers, all the positive numbers, even though it is 1,100,000, even though the value of x is negative 100, negative 1,000,000, so pwede siyang maging value ng x. So, ganun kapag quadratic inequality. Dahil when we substitute the value of x to our inequality equation, the statement must be true. So now let's proceed with the steps in solving quadratic inequality. So first is we're going to change inequality sign to equal sign. And then after that, we're going to write the quadratic equation to general form or to a standard form. So dapat the equation is equal to 0. So it becomes ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Then after natin ma-transform into general form or into standard form, we are going to solve for the value of x. So, yung pagsasolve natin ng value ng x, katulad lang siya ng quadratic equation. We have the factoring, the extracting the square root, completing the square, and also the quadratic formula. But again, let me remind you that not all quadratic equation or quadratic inequality can be solved using the factoring, extracting the square root, and completing the square. But all kinds of equation or the quadratic equation and inequality can be solved using quadratic formula. So, after solving the value of x, we are going to put the values on a number line and divide it into 3 regions. So, pag na-plot na natin yung value ng x, it is divided into 3 regions. Next is we're going to choose a test point from each region and substitute its value to the given inequality. So, if the resulting inequality is true, ayan na. So, then the region containing the test point is a solution of a region, or yun na yung mga roots ng ating quadratic inequality. Then, after that, we are going to write the solution in interval notation. So, yung interval notation is malalaman natin in this lesson. So, to further understand and to use these steps in solving quadratic inequalities, let's have an example. So for our example, we have x squared minus 8x greater than negative 15. So we are going to solve this quadratic inequality. So let's follow the rule or the steps. So first is we need to change this inequality symbol to equal sign. Then it becomes x squared minus 8x is equal to negative 15. So after changing the symbol into equal sign, if the equation is not in standard form, we need to transform it. So to transform this equation into standard form, we will transpose negative 15 to the other side. So x squared minus 8x plus 15 is equal to 0. Then after changing it into standard form, we will get the value of x, or we are going to solve the value of x. So paano ba natin masosolve yung value ng x? So if I'm going to observe the equation that we have, it can be factored. So I need to see the factors of positive 15, and then kapag kinuha ko yung sum niya, dapat ang sagot ay negative 8. So to factor positive 15, I will try negative 5 and negative 3. Dahil negative 5 and negative 3 is equal to positive 15. And then pag pinag-add ko naman siya, negative 5 plus negative 3, the answer is negative 8. So ito yung factor niya. And then after that, we were going to factor the x squared. So, yung factor ng x squared natin is x and x. Then we are going to equate it to 0. So now we have the factor of x squared minus 8x plus 15 is equal to 0. Then we are going to set each factor to 0. So the first factor, x minus 5 equal to 0. And the next naman nating factor is x minus 3 equal to 0. So next naman natin, to get the value of x, we need to transpose negative 5 to the other side and the other one, negative 3 to the other side. So x is equal to, so negative becomes positive. So positive 5. And then the other one is x is equal to positive 3. So now we have the value of x. So if you are going to use the quadratic formula, dapat ganito din yung magiging sagot nyo. X is equal to 5 and x is equal to positive 3. So before doing a number line, dahil yun yung next natin, I will give you another tips or another information about inequality symbol. So when our inequality symbol is greater than or less than, the hollow dot na gagamitin natin is not shaded. And then, if the inequality symbol that we have is greater than or equal to, and then less than or equal to, then the hollow dot is shaded. Paano po yung shaded? It is solid dot. So, merong shade yung loob niya. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, kapag not shaded, hindi kasama yung value nung x natin na ipa-plot. And then, next naman, kapag ka-shaded, kasama yung value nung ipa-plot natin. Ibig sabihin, so let's have a number line. So let's say this is our number line. Since both of our x is positive, let's adjust it to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then 7. And then to the other side is negative number, which is negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, and so on. So, kapag nakita natin yung number line is with arrow, ibig sabihin extended line yan. Ibig sabihin pwedeng umabot yan into 100,000, millions, and so on. Ibig sabihin infinity yan. So, now we have the number line. Then next, we are going to plot the value of x. Then we are going to divide it. So, x is equal to 5. Since our inequality is greater than, so, hollow dot lang siya and not shaded. So, 5. Ibig sabihin, etong 5 hindi kasama sa solution set. Kasi pag chinek natin yan, hindi siya magiging true statement. So later on, we'll check it. The next is x is equal to positive 3. So, ang division niya is kung nasan lang din yung hollow dot natin. So, this one is the first region, second region, and then this is the third region. After dividing it into 3 regions, then we will have the test point. So, saan po ba tayo kukuha ng test point? Kukuhanin natin yung test point kahit isa lang sa first region, isa sa second region, isa sa third region. So, to check kung nasan yung ating solutions. So, let's try to solve using negative 2. So, let's try negative 2. So, if x is, so let me have this separate. So, if x is equal to negative 2, then we will substitute it to the original equation natin, which is inequality. Yung may inequality. So, x squared minus 8x is greater than negative 15. So, dito ko po siya nakuha. So, next is we're going to substitute the value of x, which is negative 2. So, negative 2 squared minus 8 times negative 2 is greater than negative 15. Then simplify, negative 2 squared is equal to positive 4. And then negative 8 times negative 2 is positive 16. And then greater than negative 15. So 4 plus 16 is equal to 20. Then greater than negative 15. So this statement is true dahil yung 20 natin is greater than negative 15. So therefore, kung true yung negative 2 natin, then this region is a solution set. So, eto yung mga value ng x natin. Ibig sabihin, dahil extended yan, so yung kasama sa solution natin is negative 4, negative 5 to negative infinity. So, solution set natin yan. So, therefore, the value of x is less than, so yung value ng x natin is less than 3. So, dahil less than 3, which is yung 2, 1, 0 negative numbers. Next naman natin is, let's try to check the values in second region. So, let's try to use positive 4. So, let's divide it. Ayan. So, if x is equal to positive 4, then we will substitute it to the equation of x squared minus 8x greater than negative 15. So, substitute the value of x, which is 4 times 4 squared minus 8 times 4 greater than negative 15. So, if we check it, or if we simplify it, it is 4 squared is 16. And then negative 4 times, negative 8 times 4, it is equal to negative 32. Then greater than negative 15. And then next naman natin dito is to simplify 16 minus 32. So 16 minus 32 is negative 16. Then negative 16 is greater than 15. So this statement is false. Dahil mas mataas ang negative 15 compare sa negative 16. So therefore, this one is false. Dahil negative 16 is mas mababa siya sa negative 15. So, pag false, ibig sabihin wala dito yung solution set natin. And also, these 3, hindi rin yan solution set natin, and also 5. So, next naman natin is to check the third region. So, let's try positive 7. So, if x is equal to positive 7, then x squared minus 8x is greater than negative 15. And then, yung x natin is papalitan natin ng 7. Then, 7 squared minus 8 times 7 is greater than negative 15. Then, after that, so we're going to simplify. 7 squared is equal to 49. Then, Negative 8 times 7 is equal to negative 56, then greater than negative 15. If we solve this one, 49 minus 56, it is equal to negative 7, then greater than negative 15. So, this statement is true. Bakit po? Dahil yung negative 7 natin, mas mataas talaga siya sa negative 15 natin. Therefore, if this region, ayan, is true, then nandito yung solution natin. Solution set. So, ibig sabihin, ano siya sa 5? Greater than. So, x must be greater than 5. Ibig sabihin, yung mga values ng x natin ay 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. Dahil infinity yan. So, ngayon, nahanap na natin yung mga regions kung saan yung solution set natin. Now, let's check dito yung nasa hollow dot natin to prove na hindi siya kasama. So, let's try if x is equal to 3. So, substitute it. X squared minus 8x is greater than negative 15. So, 3 squared minus 8 times 3 is greater than negative 15. So, 3 squared is positive 9. Then, negative 8 times 3 is equal to negative 24. Then, greater than negative 15. So, 9 minus 24 is equal to negative 15. Greater than negative 15. So, this is false. Bakit po siya false? Kasi, yung negative 15 is equal lang naman siya sa negative 15. So, hindi siya mas mataas sa negative 15. Kaya, false po ito. So, therefore, positive 3 is not included in our solution set. So, now we are going to have the interval notation. So, paano po ba gumawa ng interval notation? So, first, have a bracket. Then, second is put the x. And then, to the other side is yung value ng x natin. So, which is 3. And this one is 5. So, ano pong ilalagay natin between 3 and x and 3? So, dito lang tayo titingin sa true statement natin, which is x is less than 3 and x is equal to 5. So, what are we going to do is to combine it and it becomes interval notation. So, this is our center, x. So, let's start with x is, ano dapat yung x natin? X is greater than dapat siya sa 5. So, therefore, x is greater than 5. Ngayon, ano naman yung x natin sa 3? Is it greater than or less than? So, dapat yung x natin is less than. So, kung saan nakaturo, dun yung mababa. Tama? So, x is less than. So, kung saan nakaturo yung ating inequality symbol, yun yung mababa. So, x is less than to 3. So, therefore, now we have the interval notation. So, this is how we're going to solve the quadratic inequality.